Welcome to the Focal Insights Podcast Founder Hour edition, hosted by co-founder Joe Pollock. Joe has been in the e-commerce industry for over 25 years. He grew and bootstrapped his own startup to a successful exit. Founder Hour episodes go behind the scenes to learn how some of the best e-commerce brands were founded, grown, and operated straight from the founders themselves. Founder Hour is brought to you by Focal Software, a new generation ERP and operation suite for e-commerce brands and third-party marketplace sellers. Focal was built with SMB brands and marketplace sellers in mind to help them grow profitably. Now let's welcome our host, Joe Pollock.
Hello and welcome to the Focal E-commerce Insights podcast, where we chat with e-commerce entrepreneurs about business, selling online, and how to overcome challenges for success. Joining us today is Seth Taylor from Concrete Designs. Seth attended Kansas State University with a focus on art and kinesiology. He was a personal trainer for 2 years, started a tree trimming business. In 2011, he purchased a concrete business and started with stained concrete floors and added precast countertops. And later, I believe around, maybe 2018 or so, added e-commerce and sold $40,000 worth of product online in 2019 and grew that tremendously to $540,000 in 2022. Currently, he's got about a $1 million business providing custom concrete products in all 50 states, served on the board of the Concrete Promotional Group of Kansas City, is married and has 2 children and lives in Kansas City. So Seth, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for joining. And that intro there told me a couple things right off the bat but I'll let you explain this. A lot of times people that get into their own business or owning their own business, they know they're going to do that, but don't always know what that business is going to be. So my guess is you weren't setting out to be a tree trimmer. You weren't setting out to be a personal trainer. You weren't setting out to get into concrete, but maybe you were. You can tell me. But were you just out saying, I want to be in business, and whatever opportunity comes along, I'm going to jump at it and see what I can do here with it?
Yeah, well, Joe, I mean, I was young, wasn't quite sure what to do with my life, other than the fact that I found the girl I wanted to marry. But other than that, it was just taking some time to figure out what my life plan was going to be, and it didn't matter really what I planned. There were other things out there for me that I was going to end up doing anyway. So, I just kind of went with the flow and took the avenues that were put forth in front of me, and just took those opportunities to turn them into what we have today.
Yeah, and I think that's somewhat typical. Like you said, when you're young, you're just looking for opportunities, maybe looking for any opportunity outside of a 9-to-5 type thing, which some people really want to avoid. But that's not uncommon to hit on a couple different things before you settle on the one that you think you might do for quite some time.
Sure.
Yeah, so let's talk then mostly about the concrete business. I think you started off by purchasing a company and then maybe added some products, and that settled into something that you were a specialist in as well. Can you tell a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. So previous to that, I was working with a tree trimming company that I had started with my uncle. My aunt jumped on board, and then within 2 years realized that working with family was not a good idea. Had to get out of there quickly. Basically, I had nowhere else to go, so I began a job hunt. And back when the classifieds were still a deal, scrolling through the back of the newspaper and saw that there was a concrete company for sale. I looked into that, happened to be a gentleman that actually went to the same church that my wife and I attended. And so I reached out to him and got a little bit of information. And basically, he had sold the business a couple times in the past and got burned. He had to quit the business because he had just aged out of it. So, the opportunity came along, and, for a little bit of cash, I was able to acquire the name and some tools. And I also had him as, kind of a expert to help me get the business started. So when we did that, we were down in South Central Kansas, um, down around the Wichita area. And about a year into that, my wife got a job offer to move back up to Kansas City. So we took that opportunity. We figured now, 1 year into this new business, probably the best time to move rather than later. So moved up to Kansas City, and when we had started, we were doing some flat work and like stained concrete floors and stamped concrete and those things. Once I moved up to Kansas City and saw the amount of competition that we had, I decided we needed to find a niche, and we needed to find it real quick. Concrete countertops really kind of intrigued me, so I started looking into those and started really focusing our business on simply doing the concrete floors and doing the custom precast work from that point. Then as the years went by, we got better and better with the precast, side of things, and we did not need to continue with the flooring and the stained concrete and the epoxies and stuff. And so we dropped those and grew through reduction. Within a couple of years of dropping those, we decided to check out the online selling platforms. Etsy seemed to be the best fit for the handmade products for us. So we jumped on that in 2018, and just hoping to get a little bit of extra cash flow, just something nice on the side. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, that is the majority of our business is online sales. So we still do our local work here in Kansas City, but we have sold and shipped products to all 50 states, so including Hawaii.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, before we go full on to e-commerce, you touched on a couple things there that I wanted to mention or get your opinion on. So when you start a business, there's always the idea of and a lot of advice from people. You should have partners. You should never have partners. You should work with family. You should never work with family. So you worked with family who were partners. So that sounds like there were some challenges there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any thoughts about partnerships? I know when you purchased the concrete company, you kind of had the original owner there was a partner to some degree, maybe not financially or maybe, but what are your thoughts on that? How to get started, and should you go it alone or should you get help?
I think that really comes down to the situation and the people that you have. One thing I have learned through the years of business is contracts, even though they seem a little over the top because somebody as long as you have or how good your relationships are, setting up a contract and having a structured plan for how that partnership will be set up is key to everything. Without that, I don't see a way to succeed without that, honestly.
Yeah, you can't just jump in there and hope for the best.
Right. I did that and it did not work.
Yeah, you got to have everything to prepare for whatever might happen, whatever could possibly happen. Okay, let's talk about that success then with Etsy. So did you start with Etsy before selling your own products online, or did you start with, say, a Shopify website or something where you were selling it on your own website?
Sure. Now, we always had a website from day one, but that was more, the local market, just trying to put ourselves out there in front of the local markets. And we really did not start the online store until after the Etsy. Once we started seeing how the success with Etsy was moving forward, we then had our website rebuilt to be primarily a storefront. But yeah, completely never even considered going that route till, we were 7 years into business before we ever even pulled the trigger on that. But yeah, that was probably the best decision I've ever made as far as business goes.
Yeah, and it sounds like when you first described getting onto Etsy that you just thought, well, let's see how this goes. Let's see if this is another revenue channel. Maybe it'll help us,
right,
some expenses or something. But it seems like it really surprised you. Can you talk about that? What was it about it now that you can look back that say, hey, this was a really good way to go with my product?
Yeah. Well, especially with the Etsy, my wife always tells me, I would never have thought to get on Etsy to buy sinks or whatever large project you might have. she always thought it was just little handmade doodads that, like berets and things that women might make, just as a little side gig. But I was actually pretty surprised at the amount of larger products. I mean, even full on cabinetry and furniture. So ours wasn't as big as we thought, compared to the other items that were on Etsy. Really had to figure out really how to kind of navigate the shipping and the how do we get a custom product, take a basic homeowner probably knows how to work a tape measure and that's about it, to get us the information needed so that we can create that custom item just for them. And then how do we get it there? So those were really the biggest challenges, is how do we do this long distance?
Yeah, and to give listeners an idea too, I don't think everybody knows exactly what custom concrete countertops are, but I believe many they're either one big piece or multiple pieces. And what is the weight typically of an average shipment?
Sure. So what we sell mostly, we have done a few full-on kitchens and shipped those out, but mostly what we've been doing is vanity sinks. So we'll have, your small little 2-foot vanity sink all the way up to 10-foot plus. We've shipped out 12-foot vanity sinks all in a single piece. Our average size pieces that we'd have to ship freight are probably going to be in the range of 2.5, 300 pounds, somewhere in that neighborhood. We have a few that are light enough that we can actually ship through UPS, just UPS ground. But the majority of what we do has to go freight. And yeah, we've got at least a couple 100 pounds of weight in product in those.
Yeah, I can see how that would be one of the biggest challenges, not only just the shipping, the costs, the packaging as well, to protect something like that if it were to hit the ground.
Yep. Yeah, our packaging, we use plywood sheathing, and we build custom crates for every single piece that goes out the door.
Yeah.
So and we have a foam supplier here in town, so we can get styrofoam, cut it down into sheets for us so that we can package those nice and secure. So for the most part, I mean, you can't control everything with freight companies, but for the most part, we probably get about 96-97% of our pieces make it all in one piece undamaged. So
Yeah, that's great. And I think that might be the first time I've ever heard that. You've got a custom product and every one of them has to have custom packaging design
Yep.
done on top of that to make sure it gets there. Okay, so that's Etsy. It sounds like it was pretty successful. Have you then after that you were selling on your own website, and that sounds like that's doing pretty well too. How about other marketplaces, or what else are you doing from an e-commerce standpoint?
We have investigated some different avenues, some different marketplaces. We have not started anything else at this point. Trying to find the marketplaces that set themselves up well for the full customized products that we do, and also offer the appropriate time frame to get those products out. Like with Amazon, it's very difficult to say it's going to take 4 or 5 weeks for you to receive your item. People, I'm guilty of it too. When I get on Amazon, I'm expecting that thing next day. So,
and for their FBA, they expect you to send them 100 units or 1,000 units, right?
Right. Which, when we're doing custom work, that's not possible.
No.
So,
okay. What about tools and technologies that you've used either for your business in general? What are you using to run your business now that you've got at least 3 distinct? You're an omni-channel seller. Do you have a brick and mortar where you're actually people can come in?
Yep. We have our shop and showroom all in one. Here in the Kansas City metro. So we have that people get to come into locally. But yeah, everything that we're doing long distance, more than say an hour and a half away from us, all of that is done online. Somebody close enough might drive to the showroom, but for the most part, it's all done digitally. As far as the products we're using to do these, since we only have the 2 online marketplaces, that being our website and Etsy, we don't have a program to run the multiples together. We just individually run our products through Etsy or through the website. It's not too complex at this point. I'm sure if we expand and find some other marketplaces, we'll probably have to look at some software to help us kind of keep everything streamlined. But for now, what we've got is working just fine.
Yeah, yeah. As long as there's not so much complexity, you can manage a couple different things with their own platforms.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about the advice for future business people that want to get into business or e-commerce? When we talk about selling online, it's about a $6 trillion market, going to 8 trillion in the next couple of years. So, we're going to be selling more and more things online. What are your thoughts on the future, or any advice for anyone that wants to jump in here and sell on Etsy or similar?
Well, my experience might not be, the typical experience, because we had the product already and then found a way to be able to sell it online. I would think, moving forward, if somebody was starting a new business primarily to sell on e-commerce, they'd have to figure out what that product is beforehand, which would also allow them to kind of tailor their sales channels for that purpose. But yeah, for somebody coming kind of from my side of things, where you've already got very large custom pieces, trying to find those marketplaces that allow those full-on customizations and allow you to operate the business the way you're already set up, is as opposed to having to modify your whole business just to work through a certain platform. I think online selling, though, it's huge for us, because we're no longer restricted primarily just based on the remodeling and housing market or the construction market just locally. So if, say Kansas City itself is having a little bit of a downturn, we still have the rest of the country that we can still sell to. So that really kind of softens the blow for some different economic downturns.
Yeah, and that's e-commerce for you. Even though you've got a niche, but not everybody that wants a niche product is near you. And
Right.
when it's a heavy one that's difficult to move, you've got to leverage these other platforms.
Yep. Yeah, and it also, for us, selling again a luxury product that's custom made, being able to get into some of those higher end communities, like Beverly Hills and New York City penthouses. Those people are now available to us to be able to reach as well. Whereas before the e-commerce side of our business, there was no way that we were going to get into those places. No way to get in front of them. So, getting in front of people locally, I mean, you got your home shows and your grassroots marketing, but yeah, the online e-commerce side of things has really, really opened the door for us as far as how widespread and how big that we can grow.
Yeah. Yeah. You also mentioned something there that just made me wonder. You said something to the effect of changing your product for the marketplace. I'm wondering if you did any exercises or thought about using what you have to create something that would lend itself to an Amazon or even a Walmart, where it would be maybe a luxury good that's semi-custom that you could send in bulk and a lot to further take advantage of what you already have built, a store, a network, that kind
Sure.
of thing.
Yeah, that is something that we have considered. And we've gone as far as, kind of working with some different prototypes and things. But we could have, some smaller, like vessel style vanity sinks and things along those lines that we could do. We also have, we're a small business, so there's a lot of overhead involved in, manufacturing all these and then storing them until somebody's ready to purchase them. Since what we're doing, even those smaller pieces are not that small. So yeah, just our product cost, the overhead and all that's involved, still having something that's basically ready to ship out the door, and having a 2-week supply. I mean, we just wouldn't be able to be set up for that.
Yeah, there's no lightweight concrete when it comes to storage and
Nope.
Okay, well, back to the advice for anyone either on the business side or the e-commerce side. If there's anyone listening that's thinking of getting into business for themselves, any general tips, or what's your number one tip for somebody that wants to take the leap?
Find something you're passionate about. Even if it's not necessarily the product that you're passionate about. One of the greatest joys for me is getting to work with my employees, getting to the point where I'm one of the older guys around. So, my employees are all 30 and under. So, being able to mentor them, help them grow, not only professionally, which is in and of itself a trick, because I can't go out really necessarily and hire somebody that already knows how to do what we do. So we have to train them, from the ground up. So seeing them develop that way, but also seeing them develop as humans and just being good people. That's one of the greatest things about getting to run my business. So finding those people, finding that passion, like I said, whether it's a product or what you can do with the products or the environment that you're in, to be able to help make the world a better place.
Yeah, great advice. So generally, if you want to get into your own business and have your own company, you better be passionate about it, or have something passionate, or and working with a
Yeah.
good team.
Yeah. Even if you are passionate about it, there are still some sleepless nights involved. So
Yeah,
definitely some stress along the way.
probably helps to be passionate if when times get tough.
I had a lot more hair when I started.
There you go. All right. Well, as we wrap up, why don't you let anyone listening know how they can find your very cool custom concrete work, and reach out to you if they want to.
Yeah, well, we've got our, like we said, we've got our Etsy store, and we've got a lot of the social medias. The easiest way to find us is just through our website, which is concretetopskc.com, and our link tree is at the top of the page.
Perfect. Well, let's wrap it up with that. So, Seth, thank you very much for joining today, sharing your story, and thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Focal Insights Podcast. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted of new episodes. See you next time.